Mic'd up.
Highlights from Lowlifes. Highlights from Lowlifes.
Good evening, everybody, and how about that very professional opening? We are underway here from the Highlights from Low Life show.
It's about
this-
time.
Is this episode 68 or
Yeah. I'll go with that.
68? Okay, good,
Sure.
because I have sound effect for the next episode, but we'll have to save that for another time, which would be next week at 6
Hey, the
o'clock.
red light's going off already. What does that happen? What does that mean?
We are the Highlights from Low Life show. I am Rob Lannerman. Joining me tonight is Rob Weber, Marty Brown, and JC Penny. We are here to talk about college football and memorable bowl games. Just to give the backstory, we are a bunch of guys that have played baseball together for a long time, and during the COVID pandemic, we got together and did these calls just to kind of stay in touch with each other, have our little happy hours and those kind of things. And it evolved into us trying to challenge each other with top 5 lists. And somehow, some way, the mic'd up guys heard about it and go, well, that'd make a great show, which speaks to their judgment very highly. And so here we are. We're doing what we would normally just be doing anyway, but we're doing it here with you live on Mic'd Up. If you hit that microphone button during the show, you can leave us a comment. You can pick apart somebody's picks. You can make fun of Marty's clip-on tie. All the usual things are there for you.
The
So
one time
please-
I'm actually wearing a clip-on and you have to bring it up. Thanks a lot.
Please
Thank you.
participate with our show.
Thanks, Tiger.
All right. So I think I mentioned it earlier. Tonight is the top 5 most memorable college football bowl games. So this should be interesting. I know I took a different tact with it, and I think some of you guys might have as well. There's a certain guy here I think I'm going to have start tonight wearing his loyalty literally on his sleeve. That's you, JC.
Cheers. Thank you. All right. My take on these is personal because most of these, not all of them, but most of these I attended. The Christmas Eve 2003 Vegas Bowl from Sam Boyd Stadium. This was before Allegiant Stadium was created. This thing is out in the middle of nowhere.
It's putting it nicely.
At an elevation, and at 7 p.m. on Christmas Eve, I wasn't quite ready for how cold it was. But Steven Jackson scored a record 5 touchdowns to help the Beavers over the New Mexico Lobos, and the Beavers were only favored by 1 point at game time by the Las Vegas odds makers. But very memorable for Steven Jackson's 5 touchdowns, and the Beavers rolled to a 55-14 win. So the 2003 Las Vegas Bowl.
That had 14 people in.
Actually, Marty,
About 14 people in the stands at the end of that game.
Yeah, at the end of the game.
Yeah.
Attendance was 35,000.
Yeah. Believe it or not, that does draw well. But you're right. That stadium was awful. It stuck out in the middle of nowhere, and it was as ancient can be. It was, yeah. So glad that's behind us.
All right, JC, who you got next?
I got Marty next.
All right, well, great, because it ties in well, because we're gonna pick on who lost that game.
New Mexico Lobos.
Oh, well, let's bring up the New Mexico Lobos again. I guess they were okay because they made it into a bowl game in 2004. And again, well, we'll play with on JC's theme. I was there at the time. They played in that classic 2004 Emerald Bowl game. As I know, everybody's going, oh, I blew up their list already. Okay, but where the New Mexico Lobos played the Naval Academy. And this game was memorable first of all, because I was there. My brother and I would go to the Emerald Bowl every year, and they changed the name to a couple other things. We would, and it, oh, you guys, the Giants guys would help me. Remember, is Zach's Taverns still down the road from AT&T? Does that ring any bells? It was about 4 or 5 block walk. It was Zeke's.
Zeke's, I think you're right. Yeah, Zeke's.
Yeah. We would go down to Zeke's and meet with the people that were playing, fans who were playing in the bowl game that year. Whether it was UCLA or Boston College or anything, we just had a great time. The one that makes this game memorable is that the Navy held the ball for the entire third quarter. 3 yards in a cloud of dust type of football, all the way through the third quarter. I just loved it. I would love to coach a team that would do that. Of course, I wouldn't last too long because everybody else would be bitching about me, why didn't you throw me the ball and all that kind of stuff. But I thought that was terrific. It was a 26-play drive that still holds the NCAA bowl record for the longest drive in college football. So, and they won 34-19. And so I thought that was great. Hold the ball for the entire friggin' quarter. So that's my pick for number 5. Robbie, take it.
All right. So I got the irony game here. This goes back to 2016, Grambling versus North Carolina Central in the Celebration Bowl. And the irony part is the name of the bowl, the Celebration Bowl. North Carolina Central, with just seconds to go, charged downfield and got a touchdown. The game is now Grambling 10, North Carolina Central 9. It's time for the extra point. Oh, but wait. In the Celebration Bowl, North Carolina Central got a penalty for excessive celebration. It pushed the kicker back. Then they got a personal foul. It pushed the kicker back further. North Carolina Central missed the field goal, and Grambling wins 10-9.
Celebration.
I was looking at that going, there is no way. And so I went back and watched the little YouTube thing of the highlights, and there's a way, and it's crazy, but
Yeah.
and it was a justified penalty. So there it is. That's my number 5. I guess that leaves you, Mr. Weber.
Okay, I got an interesting one. The 2001 GMAC Bowl. General Motors Acceptance Corporation. That's what GMAC stands for, apparently. This is believed to be the highest scoring bowl game in the history of bowl games. The final score was East Carolina 64, Marshall 61.
Wow.
Here's a short synopsis of the game. Marshall, whose quarterback was Byron Leftwich. If you guys remember him.
Yeah, he was around for a long time in the NFL.
They trailed East Carolina at halftime 38-8. However, the second half was a little bit different story. The Thundering Herd returned 2 David Garrett interceptions for touchdowns, and Leftwich, whose final stats for the game was 41 completions out of 70 attempts for 576 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. He threw 3 TDs in the second half, including an 11-yard toss to Darius Watts with just 7 seconds remaining in regulation, and that tied the game 51-51. However, the guy missed the extra point.
Oh.
So they went into overtime. And in the second overtime, Leftwich hooked up with Josh Davis for an 8-yard winning score in that second overtime. The 2 teams combined for 1,141 total yards in the 4 quarters and 2 overtimes. So, yeah, highest scoring bowl game ever. So I'm guessing our listeners are not hearing so far the greatest bowl games ever. Remember, these are the ones that are most memorable to us.
Memorable.
All right, you want to go on to round two, Robbie?
Yeah, let's move it on around. Who do you want to start?
All right, let's. Why don't you start?
Okay, we're going to go back to 2015, the Camping World Bowl. Number 18 Baylor versus number 10 University of North Carolina. The Baylor Bears went in as heavy underdogs due to the loss of both their starting and backup quarterback. A redshirt freshman quarterback started the game. He was injured.
Oh, wow.
They proceeded to use 4 different guys that had played a little bit of quarterback in high school against the number 10 defense in the country, North Carolina. So there was a couple of running backs and a couple of wide receivers that had a little experience. So Baylor adapted, and they used I guess you would call a World War I offense. Just keep throwing guys out there until you overwhelm them a little bit. They set an all Bulls record with 645 yards rushing. Six against the number 10 defense in the nation.
Wow. Wow.
756 yards of total offense. They were something like 5 of 30 or 5 of 25 on passing. Everything else was a running play. 5 different guys for Baylor took snaps in the game. And Baylor
Wow.
wins. Baylor wins 49-38.
Beautiful.
That's great.
What do you got, Marty, for number 4?
Could go a number of different directions. So let's start with this, and because I'm going just take this for what it is, because I'm going to build on it a little later. But the 1984 Orange Bowl game was significant because of how crazy 1984 was. And like I said, I'm going to build on this a little bit later. The number 1 ranked Nebraska Cornhuskers against the 10-1 rated number 3 in the nation, Miami Hurricanes. And this came down to a touchdown late in the quarter that tied the game. Nebraska tied the game with Miami, and Tom Osborne, the coach, decides to go for 2. No, I have to back up. I apologize. When Nebraska scored, they were down by 1, 31-30. Going for 2 to win the game. And they screw it up, and they lost. The number 2 team in the country, North Carolina, lost. Earlier in the day in the Cotton Bowl, Texas fell 10-9 to number 7 Georgia. Illinois was a big team that year. They lost in the Rose Bowl to 45-9 to UCLA. So all these big schools lose. Who won the mythical national championship? Wait for round 3.
Oh.
JC, take it.
You're doing like a
Alrighty,
Paul
alrighty.
Harvey rest of the story kind of thing.
That's it.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, exactly.
Let the audience down, man.
So I'll go back to Marty's Emerald Bowl.
Oh, cool.
December 28th, 2007. I was lucky enough to attend because it was held in the semi-local phone company ballpark, as it was called, when it was Pac Bell Park and then AT&T Park. And we all know where that is, where baseball stadium first opened in 2000 on the corner of 3rd and King. Oregon State put up a comeback from Maryland's early 14-7 lead and won 21-14. Household name for Oregon State, Yebinson Bernard. Had
Jebinson?
177 yards and one TD. He couldn't make it in the NFL, but he went on to play for the Saskatchewan Roughriders in the Canadian Football League and did okay. So that's my 12/28/07 Emerald Bowl.
Nicely done.
Yeah. I missed that. That Emerald Bowl, whatever they call it, was low key. It was a lot of fun, and it was good football. So I really, my brother and I would go every year. We had seats on the 50-yard line, so I missed that. It was fun. It was cool. A lot of different teams every year. So really, yeah.
So I lost track. Who needs to go in this round? Rob?
The guys upstairs.
It's Webby, I believe.
Yep.
All right. I got a good one. The 2016 Alamo Bowl.
Oh,
you guys remember this?
Yes, I do.
TCU versus Oregon. The game at halftime, Oregon was winning 31-0. But just before halftime, their quarterback got hurt. So TCU came out with a little bit more confidence in the second half. They were able to eventually catch the Ducks and move forward on this, and they got the game into an overtime, and then a second overtime, and then a third overtime. And in the third overtime, TCU ended up winning the game 47-41.
Wow.
Considered to be one of the longest college football games ever. And of course, it was quite a long game in its own right in terms of bowl games. So, yeah, a 31-point comeback, and you win in a third overtime, 47-41. This was also one of those games that interrupted primetime TV in some areas. Basically washed out all the shows that were supposed to play that night. So, yeah.
That's what that mattered.
Including Heidi, I hear. Including
the Heidi Bowl.
All right. Is that finished up round two?
Yeah. So that brings us to my favorite part of the show, a segment we like to call What You Drinking? And as always, the Highlights from Lowlife show is sponsored by our good friends at Almanac Brewing. I bet you knew that was coming. We are all sitting around drinking some Almanac tonight. We're going to let you know what we're drinking. These beers are fantastic. They are definitely one of the great craft brewers in America, and they are a must consume brand. So I am drinking from their lager series that just came back out again for the fall and into winter, the Porch Light Lager. This is a super rich, dense, flavorful beer that is still light and easy to drink, and that's something that they really specialize in. I really love this beer. I was so happy to see it come back out again this year, and yeah, it's like a moth to a light. Say it with me. I'm drawn to this beer.
Huh?
What are you guys drinking?
This beer.
What you guys drinking?
Well, go ahead. Go ahead, JC. Go ahead.
All right. Well, I'm drinking my jersey here. True Kolsch.
I'm wringing my shirt out into my can.
Bright, refreshing, crisp. This thing is so beautiful. A true German Kolsch, and it's wonderful. Cheers.
Nice.
Yeah. So I opened up the refrigerator before the show started, and I looked at the Bunny Hop IPA, which is good, and then I went there it is. I'm still holding on to the Rocktoberfest. It's the best Oktoberfest beer I've ever had. But then there it is on the far left. The best thing they've ever made, and well, as far as I know. And it's still a staple. And I'm sorry, JC's, you nailed it. It's the True Kolsch. It's a great summer beer because it's refreshing, and it's a great fall winter beer like now because it's got a great taste to it. So and then here's the great. All right, come on, let's get the less filling line. Come on,
Less
great taste
filling,
flavor.
less filling.
Wrong
Thank you.
brand.
Okay, God, you guys can't take a
What
clue.
about
where it's-
go with the one beer to have when you're having more than one?
Ooh.
All right, I am drinking Almanac's Bunny Hill IPA.
Mm.
Ah,
The Bunny Hill implies that you're a rookie to IPAs and that this will be a easier slope for you. But I got to read the can. I mean, they have poets at Almanac, and whoever wrote this is very good at creative writing. All right, are you ready? Baby, it's hella cold outside. Bunny Hill Hazy IPA has a pillowy, soft mouth feel like freshly fallen snow. This this velvety liquid snowflake is dry hopped with an avalanche of cashmere and Simcoe, creating notes of citrus zest and ripe melon. Wow.
You want to be alone with the beer? We can pause
Yeah,
the show
I
here
know.
for a few minutes if you.
I feel, I
Yeah.
feel like I'm at an intimate wine tasting.
Uh, and JC, you got any notes on the Colts you want to add?
well, yes. It says true and honest and approachable. Best of all, it makes enjoying food and friends just a little more wunderbar. Prost.
I like how you say Wunderbar. Hey, and before we close out this segment, we've got a what you drinking from a caller.
Cool.
Hey, well, I struck out looking for Almanac here in San Diego, so I had to go to a pinch hitter, and that would be a 394 Pale Ale by AleSmith.
Throw the flag on that one.
Tribute to Tony Gwynn's batting average for the 1994 season. Pale Ale is my favorite when I'm in town here, and I can't get Almanac, so that's what I had to do this time around.
I mean, I don't want to judge, but you could take it with you.
Yeah, why pack 12 pairs of underwear? You could put a 6-pack in there. Yeah.
Or call ahead to the liquor store near the little divey hotel that you're staying at and say, hey, can you give me some Almanac? All right, this is going to go horribly wrong if we don't stop it right here. So once again, thank you to Almanac for sponsoring it. They've been here with us since day one, and we definitely legitimately do enjoy the beers, and I highly recommend you stop by the brewery and visit. They are one of America's greatest craft brewers, and if you tell them you heard about them from the Highlights from Lowlife show, they may take pity upon you. So there we go. All right, Rob, you closed out that last round.
All right, Marty, start us off.
All right. So I left you on a bit of a cliffhanger last time.
That's why he picked you to start.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So the magic happened in the 1984 Holiday Bowl. Actually, because the Holiday Bowl was for that year was on the 27th of December, and some of the other games I mentioned earlier, like the Orange Bowl and the Cotton Bowl, those back in those days were New Year's Day bowls. So everybody who was ranked in those New Year's Day bowls lost. So they had all the writers who decided who was the mythical national championship back then had to go back in their books and determine there was only one undefeated team who won the Holiday Bowl. And who was that? Anybody?
Is that
Anyone?
the SMU
Anyone?
thing?
That it's the school's only national football national championship.
Cal Poly SLO?
It was almost that bad. Oh, come on. I had my notes here. I forgot to remember the quarterback. It was BYU. BYU beat the 6-5 Michigan Wolverines in the Holiday Bowl on the last second touchdown 24-17. And I think that was the key, the cornerstone game to make the NCAA says we got to have a playoff. We can't let this. This can't
Can't do
happen
this
again.
way.
We can't do it this way. But it was the 1984 Holiday Bowl. So, hey, JC, what do you got for number 3?
Well, number 3, one of the few Rose Bowls played outside of California. This one was played at Durham, North Carolina, in Duke's Stadium. And Duke, wait for it, fell 20-16 to the Oregon State Beavers. The game was moved from California because it took place on January 1st, 1942.
Something happened just a month before. I kind of forget.
Yeah. The Germans bombed Pearl Harbor. Don't you remember?
Oh, yeah. Oh, sure. Somebody. Yeah, right. There we go. I thought it was the Germans.
Yeah.
I thought the Germans that bombed Pearl Harbor.
Yeah. So I wasn't able to make that trip.
Bomb Pearl Harbor?
7 years of college down the drain.
I wasn't able to make that trip. I was a few years from being born yet, but
Oh, no.
but I remember it fondly when I read about it. All right, let's go up to Mr. Lannerman, sir.
All right, my number 3. This is for those of us out here in California. This is kind of a close to home game. The California Raisin Bowl, held at Fresno State, and actually, really, I mean, it's a funny name, and let's look beyond that. Let's be mature, gentlemen.
Why? Well, yes.
The California Raisin Bowl actually took really good programs that weren't necessarily considered powerhouses, but brought in really good teams and usually had great games. And in 1985, the Fresno State actually made that bowl at 11-0 and faced off against Bowling Green, who was also 11-0. So, and they would be whoever won that game would be the only undefeated team in Division I college football that year. So there was a lot on the line. The game is not memorable in and of itself, as Fresno State hammered Bowling Green 51-7.
Oh.
But there's a couple of really weird things. Now, in a 51-7 game, you're thinking there's two things, because Bowling Green scored only in the last minute or two, and it was one of those Fresno State just kind of laid down to run the clock out. The MVP of the game was Fresno State's Mike Mancini, their punter. The only time a punter has ever been picked as the MVP of a college bowl game. What makes it weirder is you would think when your team scores 51 points, you're not punting. So I look back, I heard about this, so I look back through LA Times and the Fresno Bee and the Sacramento Bee and the Las Vegas, whatever it was. And I read like 6 different newspaper articles. Nobody explains why this guy won the MVP. The quarterback had a pretty good day. There was a running back that scored 2 touchdowns for Fresno State. There was a guy on the defensive line that had 4 sacks. The secondary for Fresno State got 8 interceptions. But somehow the punter was selected as the MVP of the game for Fresno State. And to make it weirder, Bowling Green's coach resigned the week of the game and just walked out. So
after an undefeated season?
Undefeated season, he took a job as the defensive coordinator at San Diego State and just packed up and left. So I guess he didn't want to go to Fresno, which I get. But so I cannot find anywhere a record of why this guy was the MVP, why a punter was ever selected. It is the strangest thing, and therefore one of the most memorable college football games in all time. Thank you.
Now I'm going to make it my mission to find out why that guy got.
Yeah, why did
I wish you would. I Googled, and then I went, well, I better go to Bing, and I even went to the chat GPT, and everybody's like, "Yeah, well, Kevin Sweeney had a really good day." I'm like, great. So anyway, that's fine.
Did he actually punt in the game?
There's no stats for the punting that I could find. I checked
Oh.
Football Reference is another one for the box scores there. It had the total yards and passing and completions and all of that stuff. But how often do you punt when you have 51 points? Maybe.
Maybe he threw a pass or something.
I
Okay.
don't know.
I don't know.
Maybe they made it like Homecoming King or something. I don't know. Maybe he was the Homecoming King.
Mike Mancini, and I know he's a coach and a teacher somewhere in your San Jose area there, Mr. Weber.
Oh,
Which
Okay.
seems like the perfect segue to ask you to bring up your number 3.
Well, first of all, I'm going to go hunt down Mancini and find out what's going on.
Check the
What the
sleep
hell is
world.
going on here?
Yeah. All right. I'm hoping I'm not destroying any of your lists here, but I remember watching this game on TV, and I think a legend was born in this game. And thankfully, our local NFL team picked this guy, probably because of this game. The 1979 Cotton Bowl, where Notre Dame comes back from a 34-12 deficit to win 35-34. Joe Montana was pivotal in this game. The game time temperature was 22 degrees, which
Yeah.
doesn't sound bad, but there had been an ice storm that had gone through. There was still wind in the area that brought the temperature down to a wind chill factor of -10.
Yeah.
They're losing at halftime. Actually, they're losing 34-12 pretty late into the third quarter. And then things started turning their way. A block punt was returned for a touchdown. Montana ran one in, and then an 8-yard touchdown pass very late in the game as time expired tied the game at 34-34. So back to the other story about the Grambling game. All this guy had to do was kick an extra point, and the game's over and Notre Dame wins. Well, unfortunately, there was a penalty, and the guy got pushed back. So now it's a bit more of a field goal, but he made it, and Notre Dame won 35-34. Legendary game. It's even fun to watch today. A young Joe Montana who was never fast, but
Right.
he was probably faster in that game.
Yeah, and it was how bitter cold it was with the wind, and I thought hey, you brought that up. Yeah, I remember. That's right. That's the takeaway I remember from that. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a great game.
He
All right.
didn't start the season as the quarterback, did he?
He did not. He did not.
Yeah.
He was considered to be too slow. The scouting report said too slow and not enough arm strength.
Yeah.
He was considered to be a cerebral quarterback who read defense as well and stuff like that, but they just didn't think he had the athletic ability to be the starter.
Yeah, you just named about 54 Super Bowl champion quarterbacks.
Yeah. All right. So did everybody do round 3 or?
I think so, yes.
All right. Cool. What want to go to round 2, Robbie, or you
I
want
think
to do
round 2 is the next appropriate step.
or you could dance for us or something like that. No.
I'd like to stick with round 2.
Please.
All right. JC, start us off.
Yes, sir. So I was fortunate enough to attend the Sun Bowl in 2008 in El Paso, Texas. And the juggernaut that was the Beavers' offensive juggernaut faced the Pitt team, the Pittsburgh team, and they prevailed on a field goal. And I was in line for beer at the time. I did miss the field goal.
No.
Donnie had to tell me about it.
2
You know
points
what?
for honesty. 2 points for
and-
honesty.
But
And I respect your
And that was
decision.
the total score, 3-0.
I- yeah.
The highlight of the game, though, was at halftime, the Village People performed a Guinness World Record for the longest rendition of YMCA.
Uh,
Fun fact.
Yeah, and you just explained to me why you're in line for the beer all day. So that's how I can understand. Yeah.
No, I respect your decision.
Yeah. Well, it was the only score. All right. Marty, let's go to you.
Okay. This one, as a number 2, not the game itself was, but I was there, and it was on my bucket list. It said, but how many times have you been to the Rose Bowl game? And it was quite an experience at the Rose Bowl game. I got there early and hiked over to the to where the parade was. And of course, if you hike over to where the parade was and you weren't there before, you can only see about this from here up from people. So yeah, anyway, the game, I was following Stanford, and Stanford was in there against Wisconsin. Stanford lost the game. So why is Marty bringing this up? Because it was an interesting time there. This was the 2000 Rose Bowl game for the 1999 season. And everybody was wondering, we got there and checked into the hotel, and the game was going to be the next day if the next day arrived. It was Y2K.
Mm.
oh, that's right.
Remember that scare? Remember that bloody thing? We were in LA, and they had the TVs set up with these emergency rooms where all this stuff was going to go sideways and all this kind of, and we were there watching. We were having a little party and watching, and nothing's happening. And you tune back in 20 minutes later, they're all sitting around eating pizza that was been ordered for somebody like that. And so the game was almost an aftermath of one of two thinking. What the hell were we thinking in the first place? Or 2, we survived. Oh, but anyway. But it was hey, if you've never been to a Rose Bowl, get to the Rose Bowl. It's quite an experience. It really was. So that's my number 2. Webby.
All right. So on my list, this is the only game I actually attended. The 1989 Holiday Bowl down in San Diego,
San Diego, yeah.
pitting Penn State with head coach Joe Paterno against BYU with head coach Lavelle Edwards. So these coaches were they were legends, and these teams were good teams. I don't know if they were national championship teams, but they were very good teams, mostly known for their offense. And just like the earlier game I talked about, this was an offensive explosion. The final score was Penn State 50 to BYU 39. BYU was driving on the last drive of the game with just seconds to go, and the quarterback Ty Detmer, if you remember that name.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
He had the ball stripped from him, and Penn State ran for a touchdown the other way. Otherwise, there was a good chance that BYU was going to win the game. So this may be the only bowl game in recent history that had co-MVPs. Detmer finished the game.
Was the other guy a punter?
No. Yours is better. Detmer completed 42 of 59 passes for 576 yards. The Penn State running back was Blair Thomas, who you guys probably remember with the Jets in the NFL.
Mhm.
He had 35 rushes for 186 yards. So they were co-MVPs of the game. This other note I found out quite late, quite a bit later than after I'd seen the game. I didn't realize how much money is involved in these games,
Oh yeah.
how much the payout to the university was. So this is 1989. What do you think each of the schools were paid to play in the game?
Whoa.
500,000.
So 1989, they were each paid $1.1 million
Wow.
Wow.
as their payout from the game.
Yeah.
So there was definitely some cash involved in making it to the bowl games.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Didn't matter if you won because each team got the same amount, but pretty interesting stuff. So yeah, I still to this day I still have some memorabilia from that game. You know, uh, I have one of those plastic megaphones that they gave to everybody in the stands. I have a water bottle that they gave out to everybody. So
And they're all available for sale on Mercari. Check him out, R Weber 5.
in fact, I sold the water bottle on Mercari. The megaphone is still there. All right. So who's left in this round?
I think it's just me.
Yeah.
All right, go for it.
All right, we'll wrap up round 2 with mine. All right, mine we're going to go back to 2014. These are all pretty recent history. 2014, the Makers Wanted Bahama Bowl brought to you by Popeyes. So there's a lot to break down there. First off, Makers Wanted is a business park in Elk Grove, Illinois, several thousand miles from the Bahamas.
Mhm.
But they bought the naming rights to the game. Secondly, there are no Popeyes in the Bahamas. Thirdly, the stadium in the Bahamas was built by China. The Chinese government did the building of that stadium. And lastly, I went specifically to 2014 because it was a crazy game. Central Michigan played Western Kentucky, and the Chippewas of Central Michigan had 34 unanswered points in the second half to storm back into the game, nearly coming back to defeat Western Kentucky. They had a 4 lateral Hail Mary pass that led to a touchdown. Excuse me, they had a 4 lateral Hail Mary pass for a 2-point conversion that they couldn't get and ultimately lost the game on that play. So Western Kentucky won the game and they were served Popeye's chicken. Let me reiterate, there are no Popeyes in the Bahamas. So the Makers Wanted Bahamas Bowl brought to you by Popeyes. That's my number 2, most memorable game ever.
Good Lord.
And with that, we're moving on to a segment I like to call This is the part of the show where we love Mic'd Up, and they have been great for us, and there's some
Yep.
great shows on here. And this is the part where Rob Weber will wax rhapsodic about each of the shows on here,
We'll
even
do
the
what?
ones that aren't
Is he
on
gonna do
anymore.
what?
Wax
Yeah,
rap.
but-
It means get another beer and sit back.
Got it. Okay, you got it.
Are we going to play the Jeopardy music?
All right. Thanks for joining us on the show. You are watching us on the Mic'd Up app. And if you would like to leave us a question or comment, just hit the microphone at the bottom of the screen. And you've got 30 seconds to leave us a question or comment. We will play them on the air if they are appropriate. And Rob will play them or if they're inappropriate. So
Yeah,
that we got that.
Nothing
going
hold
for
me
you.
back.
Yeah. By the way, I'm hearing that in a future release, you'll have more than 30 seconds, which is good in some ways and bad in other ways. So we'll find out what that is. This is a proof of concept show on the network. And we are joined by some other shows. There's the Rick Barry Show with his co-host Cyrus. Rick is the of course, the former NBA and ABA All-Star, NBA Hall of Famer, Basketball Hall of Famer, and longtime Golden State Warrior. He's coaching in a 3-on-3 league now that he talks a lot about. But it's always a great listen. They cover the Warriors, they cover the rest of the NBA, college, and so forth. And Rick is very good about getting back to you on your questions or comments, and he'll tell it like it is. Some people don't like that, but he gives you his opinion. That's what you ask for.
He's
My
verbose.
friend, yeah, my friend Jim Darby has a show on here. Jim is a
If you give him his due.
he's a former executive with Easton and Mizuno, and also a pretty accomplished author. And Jim is a great storyteller. He'll have a half-hour show every other week on this platform. I'm not sure what he's got coming up, although he's expressed an interest in interviewing some of the players that he used to have contracts with Easton. So we'll be doing some interviews on his show. Let's see what else we got. We've got AJ Rovner and the Rovner Report. I feel bad for AJ. He puts on a really good show, but his favorite teams are suffering right now. He has a weekly show about the New York Giants, and the headline for this week's show was, "I'm going to analyze the New York Giants 2-10 against the New Orleans Saints 4-8 in a blockbuster." So AJ loves his New York Giants. He's great at the analysis, but you just want the team to be better, so he's got something more to talk about. He also will mix in a show about the New York Rangers here in the hockey season. And while the Rangers are doing well, AJ and his co-host obviously think the Rangers should be doing better, so they're pretty down on the team and their most recent performance. But it's early yet in the NHL, so it's a great listen if you're a hockey fan. You definitely turn into AJ's show when he has got the Rangers as the topic. Let's see, what am I forgetting? Oh yeah, John Rieger in the Florida Sports Hall of Fame. John was doing shows regularly on the platform, but I'm understanding that some of the hurricanes flooded his little studio, and he hasn't been able to do any of the shows. The shows are about folks that have been elected to the Florida Sports Hall of Fame, and then went on to have great careers in either collegiate or professional sports. They get a wide range of guests on there, but go check in the archive. The Wade Boggs show is great. The Fred Bolitnikoff show is great. There's dozens of shows out there, so give it a listen. And then our friends at Yankees Coast to Coast. That boo took it was a little bit long for the boo. It should have been right on spot, you know. Our friends Mike Miller and Adam Schneider are two huge Yankees fans. They are also Yankee fantasy campers. They know a lot of the players. They know a lot of the ex-players. They are very opinionated about their Yankees and what needs to be done to get them their next World Series. They will have a show tomorrow on the network at 7 p.m. Eastern, where they're desperately waiting for Juan Soto to re-sign with the team. Apparently, if that doesn't happen, they're going to have to switch and go in a different direction. But all right. So that's what you got going on in the network. And of course, there's us, and we will be back here next Wednesday at 6 p.m. Pacific with another fun topic. All right. Let's we got to do round number 1, huh?
Yes, we are.
All right. Who finished that one out?
I think I did.
All right.
So I'm going to turn to the aging beaver.
Well, thank you.
That red light's back on again.
I'm trying to
Here we
get Rob
go.
to do a spit take right there.
Yeah, it was almost had to wipe down the screen.
I had to open another beer on that one. Well, my number one, another game that I was fortunate enough to see, the 2001 Fiesta Bowl, which features, surprise, surprise, the Beavers, number 5 in the nation, against the Fighting Irish of Notre
Wow.
Dame, who was number 10 in the nation. The quarterback for the Beavers was Jonathan Smith, who also used to coach the Beavers more recently, and Michigan State stole him from us, and they're sorry because they ended up 5-7 this year. Anyway, Jonathan Smith threw 3 touchdown passes to Chad Ochocinco Johnson,
Yay.
and the Fighting Irish did not score a touchdown until the fourth quarter. They lost 41-9 to the Oregon State Beavers and Jonathan Smith. That was my number one. Prost.
Very cool.
Who's up next?
Take it away, Rob.
Which Rob?
Rob Weber.
Oh, okay. All right. I've actually spoken about this game before, but I have to bring it up again. The 1973 Cotton Bowl. You guys have any recollection of this game?
73.
Played in Dallas, if I remember right.
This is
As usual.
Alabama versus Notre Dame. I'm 11 years old at the time, so now you know how old I am in real life.
Wait, let me get a calculator. Hold on.
I'm watching this game with my family. And for those of you who don't know, my real first name is Robin.
I didn't
And
know
I've
that.
never really liked my real first name. Hey, cut the light. I never really liked
Party foul,
it.
Robbie.
Yeah. I thought it was a girl's name, and I was always upset that, why'd you choose that? And so I always went by Rob. And we're watching this great college football game, and Notre Dame's winning late, 24-23. There's 3 minutes left on the clock, but they have been driven back to their own 2-yard line, and they need to complete. It's like 4th down and 25 or something like that, and they need to complete a pass. Tom Clements, the quarterback, he's deep in the end zone. He's getting rushed, but he finds time to check out receiver number 1, covered. Check out receiver number 2, covered. You can watch this if you look at it. He checks out receiver number 3, covered. He's looking around. What do I do? He fires the ball upfield about 20 yards, and it's caught by a tight end by the name of Robin Weber. It is Robin Weber's only catch of the entire football season. He's a blocking tight end, not the starter. He usually gets pulled in passing downs, but for some reason the Notre Dame coach forgot to pull him from the play. So he actually got to run downfield and run a pass route. He caught this ball, got the first down, and basically ensured that Notre Dame would win the game. This guy, that one catch that he made, he's parlayed this into a career. He owns a series of car dealerships up and down the East Coast. They have him on all kinds of interview shows to talk about the catch that he made. It's just awesome, and he has my name. So of course,
what happened to you?
I am sitting there, and the 11-year-old and my parents looked at me and pointed at me and said, "That's that's the Robin Weber you should follow in his steps. There's a kid with the name of Robin Weber, and, he's doing okay in life, so you'll be able to do okay too, kid. So yeah. They only brought that up for the next 30 years or so. So that's my number one football game. I still remember it vividly. So, all right. Let's see. Marty, did you
Yeah,
go
He
I'll
hasn't
take
gone
it.
number one yet.
He
I'll,
hasn't gone number one. Oh, great. Well, we
Don't
can
break
wait
the
a few
seal.
minutes. You
Don't
had your
break the seal.
chance at the break.
are you guys done yet? Because I'm going to cheat with my number one because it wasn't really a bowl game, but it goes down as the 78th Iron Bowl. The Iron Bowl is played annually between Alabama and Auburn. And I remember this vividly because I was spending the day with my brother's family, and we were all going to go out to dinner. And I had the coats on ready to go, and I said, "The game's well. Let's just watch the end of the game here." And the last play of the game was so unreal that it's still brought up in the lores of Auburn football. It was 2023, November 30th. Number one, Alabama was visiting number 4, Auburn. And with 32 seconds left, Auburn scores to tie the game 28-28. So Saban was the coach of Alabama, and they got the ball with 32 seconds left, tie game, and instead of just sitting on it and going into overtime, he's going to try and win the game. So he throws a pass, and the kid catches the pass and runs out of bounds. Time, the referees, no time. It's over. Saban challenges the play and convinces the officials that there's 1 second left. 1 second left, and they're going to try and win the game with a 32-yard field goal. Excuse me, I misspoke. 52 yards. 52 yards. It was a long one. They kicked the ball, and as many of you guys know, they being the official that I am, I have to step in now and say that is considered a free kick in the officials' minds. So it's if you catch it, you can run it back. And the guy, I can get the name here 1 second.
Robin Weber.
Robin Weber. You like the way I set him up for that? It's pretty good. Chris Davis, 8 yards deep in the end zone, catches the ball. Okay. Like I said, 1 second left, and runs this thing back all the way in front of the home crowd for number 4 Auburn upsets number 1 Alabama in the interstate rivalry, and runs this bloody thing back all the way for a touchdown in front of the home crowd in big ups. And I remember watching this thing live, and my brother even mentioned it the other day, the following day. He says, "I got a bruise for you. He kept hitting me." And I'm like, "Oh, did you see him? Did you see this? Did you see this?"
That's great.
So, Lannerman, take it here.
All right. I've been dying for this one because when I was doing my research for this and trying to think of games that I saw, and I came across this. I'd never heard of the game. I actually went, and today I watched this entire game. I had it on while I was working today. I had it on in the background. Unbelievable. The 2019 Belk Bowl. I don't know what a Belk is, but the Belk Bowl featuring let's see, it was Kentucky and Virginia Tech. So it's, known schools. But this game in 2019, Kentucky's Lynn Bowden Jr., he became just about the closest thing possible you could ever have to a one-man team. I mean, you cannot make this up. The only thing he didn't do was punt, and we've already covered that.
Yeah.
So this guy, not only did he set a new record for quarterbacks in rushing with 233 yards
Wow.
in the game. Get this. Before the game, when the two teams came out of the tunnel, you know how the two teams come on the field. For whatever reason, Lynn Bowden Jr. was shirtless and punched a lineman from Virginia Tech as they're running on the field. All right. Then during the game, he developed a hangnail on his throwing hand, and everybody was saying, "Ha ha ha ha! He doesn't need a throwing hand because he's not throwing the ball anyway." So all of those kind of jokes. He used his other hand twice, the non-hangnail hand, to point at the defenders as he rushed past them for touchdowns.
Ooh. Ooh.
He on the Kentucky's final drive, which sealed the win, he carried the ball 13 times. He finished with the second most rushing yards in a season ever by a player at Kentucky, despite starting as a wide receiver who then had to play emergency quarterback. He finished as Kentucky's leading receiver that year, despite only playing 5 games at wide receiver. And after word was getting out about the hangnail, he used his hangnail hand to throw a game-winning pass with 15 seconds to go, and was yelling, "Y'all said I couldn't throw, so over the top it goes." And then in the post-game interview, he apologized for punching the big guy while shirtless. So Kentucky won that game 37-30. But I mean, that's an entire season in one game for this guy.
So apparently Belk is a pretty large department store chain.
All right.
In the Midwest, yeah.
So that's the sponsorship. But
well, whatever. Lynn Bowden Jr. I mean, talk about. I don't think he ever played again. So talk about going out on top, right?
Good one.
I love the idea of guy throwing the pass. You said I couldn't throw, so over the top it goes. So there you go. I think that's our full complement here. I know I've got a few honorable mentions, but we do have one very passionate caller who has left us a couple of messages, and that, of course, would be Big Juicy.
One of my most favorite bowl games would be the 1973 Rose Bowl. And I was there in the student section, and it was quite a game. SC coming in undefeated against the one-loss Ohio State Buckeyes. John McKay, Woody Hayes, legendary coaches. Sam the Bam Cunningham for SC, Archie Griffin for Ohio State. Final score, USC 42, OSU 17. USC goes on to be national champs.
I sense a little bias.
He's bragging again.
So did Big Juicy go to the USC, the University of Spoiled Children?
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
And just give him a chance, he'll tell you.
Either that or he went to Irvine, but he identifies as a Trojan. And Big Juicy's got a follow up.
Oh, one more thing to add about the 73 Rose Bowl, and that is that we didn't get any major outbursts from Woody Hayes, not punching a player, not kicking sideline markers or anything like that, but he did lose it. There was a lot of screaming and yelling and kicking the dirt and pushing his players, and that was always a good sideshow to watch that guy lose it.
And Big Juicy has responded.
I am not an anteater.
Ooh, we struck nerve. Ooh.
UCI for life, right, Big Juicy?
He seems angry.
He does.
Imagine that.
It's that IPA he's drinking.
Yeah.
It's affected him.
Well, that's all we got for callers. So how about honorable mentions? I got a crap ton.
I got one that I remembered. It was a hell of a game. It was the 2007 Fiesta Bowl, where big tough Oklahoma went in against no name Boise State, and Boise State was beating them, and it goes into overtime, and Boise State's running back. On a Statue of Liberty play on a 2-point conversion wins the game. But it's more memorable to the ladies there because that same guy on TV after the game proposes to the head cheerleader. So they they don't remember the game, but they remember proposal of the guy proposing to the cheerleader. So there you go, honorable mention.
I got. I just got one more note about that 3-0 2008 Sun Bowl. Oregon State refused to wear the white uniforms at the game. They wanted to wear their orange, and so they got penalized and lost a timeout at the beginning of the game because they weren't wearing the white uniforms. CS is what we usually call that. But Robbie, you have some good ones.
Yeah, and
Wait, before you start,
yeah,
could you explain to our audience the unit of measure crap ton?
It's heavy and it's stinking.
yeah. Oh, let's see. The Sun Bowl alone was a treasure trove, and I didn't really use any of them. But 1939, JC, you remember this?
I missed that one, unfortunately.
Possibly the most boring bowl game ever. What is now Arizona State and Catholic University, which is what is now known as Catholic University. They combined for 0 points and 3 pass completions for 16 yards. Combined. The game, of course, ended 0-0, but both coaches went to the media and said they had the superior team. 1944, the Sun Bowl. Texas Southwestern defeats the NAU Pumas 35-0. The Pumas still hold a record from 1944 to today as the only team to produce negative yards in a bowl game, including an astounding negative 25 yards per pass completion.
Per pass completion?
Completion. 2005, Northwestern leads the game 22-0. They blow the game due to 2 recovered onside kicks run back for touchdowns by UCLA. Why they were kicking off onside kicks and why they weren't prepared for it, I don't understand. And then, of course, 2012, let's bring up USC, possibly the most overrated team in decades. 2012, they entered the season as the #1 team. They finished the season at 7-5. They played Georgia Tech in the Sun Bowl in a game they clearly wanted no part of, and you could tell because Lane Kiffin, who was their head coach at that time, was wearing sunglasses and pulled the hood all the way up over his head like the Unabomber. And my last honorable mention, it's really not anything that happened in the game, but it's the Bad Boy Mowers Gasparilla Bowl. Bad Boy Mowers is a huge, heavy-duty, like industrial mowing thing. Like if you own 70 acres, you get a Bad Boy mower. That's what you cut with, right? This game is the bowl. It still exists today, and it's played in Tampa St. Pete at the Tropicana Field, which is a stadium with no grass.
Yeah, artificial.
And after the last storm, there's no field.
There's no roof.
Wow.
I can't believe I got those all in. All right.
Yeah.
You got any, Webby?
No. I think you covered it.
Well, in that case, I guess we can call it a wrap for show number 68. And you know what's coming up next week?
Yep.
Another show.
I'm gonna be. Oh, good. Okay.
So we'll be back next Wednesday here on the Mic'd Up app. Once again, we want to thank our good friends at Almanac Brewing, and it's not hyperbole when we say we love this brewery. The beers are fantastic. You got to make sure you get your hands on these beers, and we look forward to talking about them a little bit more next week. We'll see you next Wednesday.